Knowledge is important. You cannot fight without knowledge.
Nawal El Saadawi is one of the few people in Egypt who everyone recognizes by name immediately, and their face just brightens up when they hear her name because she worked tirelessly for communities in Egypt.
I went to prison because I didn't accept humiliation at the individual level, family level, country level, global level. I don't accept humiliation or inequality or injustice.
She continues to be an inspiration, I think, for me, but also countless of other young Arab and Arab American women across the world today.
Brave, formidable, a staunch advocate for gender equality. Here's how a new generation of young activists continue to be inspired by the legacy of Nawal El Saadawi.
When I think about my own experience as a young Arab American girl, I remember the feelings of loneliness and vulnerability that I felt being in a space that did not understand what it meant to be Arab.
Jana Amin is a youth activist and community mobilizer dedicated to gender parity and education access for girls.
I find myself really wanting to find an Egyptian female role model to look up to and aspire towards. And Nawal El Saadawi very quickly became that person. She was someone who embodied everything that I want to be, both a woman of service, but also someone who was so incredibly critical of both Egyptian society, but also Western society.
Nawal El Saadawi was a doctor, psychiatrist, author, and activist who fought to secure rights for women and girls.
Nawal El Saadawi really fought for girls' education. She realized at a very young age that the Arab culture that she was a part of, that Egyptian culture in particular, was very patriarchal, and she wanted to change that.
Bad education make people unaware of the tools of struggle.
One of my favorite quotes from Nawal El Saadawi was that women are half the society. You cannot have a revolution without women. You cannot have democracy without women. You cannot have equality without women. You can't have anything without women.
El Saadawi was also an outspoken critic of female genital mutilation.
But you cannot eradicate such very deep, long habits since slavery by law. You need education.
Educating people about patriarchy, imperialism, and oppression was important to El Saadawi, even when it meant she'd be targeted for her activism. In 1981, she was imprisoned by Egyptian President Anwar Sadat for her activism. Her charge was crimes against the state.
They were afraid of the political women and writers. And every day, the jailer comes to me and tell me if I find paper and pen in your cell, it is more dangerous than if I find a gun.
El Saadawi eventually convinced a sex worker to smuggle her a makeup pencil, and she wrote about her experience as a political prisoner on toilet paper.
And I stayed 3 months, day and night, writing with this little eyebrow pen and toilet paper, writing my memoirs in prison.
El Saadawi published many books throughout her lifetime, and Memoirs from the Women's Prison remains one of her most important.
She often said that the truth was kind of her weapon, that there was nothing more dangerous in a world that lies than the truth.
The reality is, gender parity benefits us all. It is the only way to achieve climate justice. It is the only way to dismantle the legacy of colonialism.
Jana started her activism at a young age.
At the age of 13, I ran a fundraiser for an organization called Heya Masr, or She is Egypt, for a small class of girls to help them undergo training to self-advocate for themselves.
And she even used her birthday to elevate girls' voices.
I'm hosting this virtual event to celebrate my 17th birthday with 17 speakers from around the world who are going to share with us why girls' education is so important.
Her work has been recognized by important global figures.
Well, thank you so much, Jana. And, I love the activism that you are doing. And, young girls like you are very much needed right now.
Jana is currently a student at Harvard, and she hopes to dedicate her career to furthering the women, peace, and security agenda in the Middle East.
Learning about figures like Nawal El Saadawi has taught me that the challenges that I'm going through as an advocate and activist for young women around the world are not unique challenges. And while there's, been baby steps made, there's also a lot more work to be done.
I am very satisfied with what's happening because we have progress. We have progress all the time. It's not very quick, but it's not also very slow.
I really hope that more visibility for Arab Americans, and especially Arab Americans working to benefit their communities, will mean that we inspire more young Arab Americans to continue in that vein and continue doing that work. And so ask yourself, how can you uplift the voices of young women in your life? How can you ensure that girls' education is a priority for the world going forward? And how can you continue the torch that Nawal El Saadawi gave us and ensure that her vision comes to fruition in the next couple of years?
Because hope is power. I do not despair.